host mode. I'm Tara Neil at the Network Virtualization and SDN Asia event 2019 taking place at the SENS Expo and Convention Center here in Singapore. With me, I have Nitin Wig, Chief Architect, Apex Center of Excellence at Juniper Networks. Hello, Nitin.
Hi. Thanks for having me here.
Nitin is here to share some insights on the telco cloud deployment solutions and trends in this space. So without further ado, Nitin, can you share with us some of the trends in the deployment of telco cloud in this region, APAC, as well as worldwide?
Sure. So this whole trend around telco clouds started around 2012. With the advent of some of the telcos in US starting to adopt these clouds for their mobility use cases as well as for their enterprise use cases. What we've seen in APAC is that this adoption has primarily focused around mobility, where we've seen that service providers had taken their EPC cores and virtualized them onto these vertical stacks that they were getting from their traditional mobility vendors. So now what we're starting to see as trends is that firstly, that these vertical stacks that they've built with these traditional mobility vendors, they're looking at breaking away from those and building some horizontal platforms on top of which they can do faster innovation, they have better control, and they can bring on newer services. So that's the first thing. We're seeing a move away from these vertical stacks to horizontal stacks. The other thing that we're also seeing is that these clouds that have traditionally been very centralized, in the big cities, into the metros, etc., they're now starting to get distributed. Even before 5G comes in, etc., we are already seeing technologies like CUPS, which is control and user plane separation, so that the user plane is actually moving towards the distributed clouds which the providers are building.
Okay, so those are the trends. So moving on, when you look at this space, what are the challenges that are being faced by both service providers and enterprises, in building these telco clouds?
Yeah. So actually the challenges are kind of linked to these trends. So the reason why these vertically integrated clouds were so lucrative for service providers is because they come with some guarantees, SLAs, KPIs, etc. Right? So now when you break this model and now you want to build these horizontal clouds, you cannot expect those SLAs or KPIs to go away because you still have a service to deliver that needs all of these SLAs and KPIs. So the challenge is, how do I still get the best of breed in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, etc., but I can also keep the SLAs and KPIs that I had alive. The other piece is that as you distribute the clouds, the managing the whole ecosystem end to end becomes very complicated. So how do I ensure that I can have a homogeneous model that works not just for the centralized clouds, but also for the distributed clouds, and that I can do the whole lifecycle management of these clouds remotely, without having all the complexity that's involved in management. So these are the two key challenges.
Okay, so there are a lot of players in this space. So what will be Juniper Networks' unique value proposition?
So from a Juniper perspective, we are focused on building these horizontal platforms that enable service providers to innovate faster and to be able to bring on best-of-breed technologies on top of this. So what we're doing is with Juniper Contrail, we are building this platform that allows service providers to break away from these vertically integrated platforms. And we are working with partners like Red Hat for their OpenStack and for their container-based solutions to build these platforms. Then we are bringing on board the best of breed VNFs that the service providers want and pre-testing them so that it makes it easier for service providers to adopt them. And then along with that, ensure that it's ready for today, which is a VM-based environment. It has to be ready for what they have from a legacy perspective, which is their bare metals, their physical infrastructure, etc. Plus, you also want it to be ready for the future, which is containerized applications and things like that. So Contrail kind of goes across this layer, and it does not just VMs, but also containers and bare metals. So that is the value proposition. And along with that, it embeds security and analytics as a part of the whole piece. So that's where Contrail or Juniper brings value.
So you have touched a little about what we can expect to see over the coming years.
Yeah.
So when it comes to telco cloud specifically, what are some of the how do you see it evolving? Like say like 3 to 5 years from now, especially with 5G in the picture.
Yep. So what I expect will happen is that with 5G, we will see that these distributed clouds are going to get more distributed and smaller. And we will start to see technologies like multi-access edge computing evolve on top of these, right? Now, when that happens, when you make them smaller, you also need the applications that sit on top also need to change. So the applications are going to evolve to become more cloud native. And so that you can kind of adapt them to the requirements of these smaller data centers, and then you need to enable an ecosystem on top of which the service providers can offer or monetize these platforms. Whether it is partnerships with OTT players or with application development ecosystem. So those are the few things that I think we'll see in the next 2 to 3 years evolve much better. Yeah.
Okay, so I think good insights into the telco cloud, a big topic. So thanks for sharing those insights with us. Okay?
Pleasure.
Pleasure.